Did you bring some fish?
That is quite logical, Captain.
Where shall I strike?
Test your might. Test your might.
Get it out! Get it out!
Test your might. Test your might.
Your mother was a murderer! You smell like a leopard!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Geek Card. This is show 122 and may well be a shorter one this week. Just various real life aggro being pulled and shenanigans indeed. And speaking thereof, what geeky shenanigans have you been getting up to this week, Robbie?
We went to a party, didn't we?
We did.
We did. We went to somewhere in Walthamstow for a redo of New Year's,
Yes.
as it was dubbed, with the lovely ladies at Girls Gone Wow and a couple of other people that we know. There was much buffoonery with balloons.
Balloonery, if you will.
That's it. Oh, see, we're already a minute in and already got a show title. Balloonery of epic proportions. No, we had a good old catch up with people. We were talking. Some people were talking a lot about things on Netflix which I haven't seen
Yes.
yet, which it's on my to-do list. And we had a pretty good time, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't know how drunk. I don't know what time you actually ended up leaving, but
Not long after you, I think.
fair enough.
Maybe half an hour or something like that.
All right, so it wasn't a silly late one then. No, don't be silly. Don't be silly. But apart from that, I'm not sure if you can hear it in the background, but my computer is currently sounding like a rocket's taking off.
I did see that you were inquiring into coolers.
Yes, because I have taken my CPU apart today, the fan, and my cleaning that I thought I had done over the years wasn't up to par. Let's put it that way. And much is being done about trying to sort that out in the time that I'm trying to save for one of those all-in-one coolers that have the water reservoirs all built into one device.
Yeah.
Which is pretty nice if you're not... I'm not prepared to water cool a system because I'm scared I'll break it. Because, water and electronics, people, it might be very efficient to cool it down, but it's still terrifying. So yeah, I've been trying to sort that out. And we had some WoW last week, and this week and every other week because it's us.
But not a great deal of it.
No, but
Partly my own fault, but
efficient when we did.
yes.
Yeah, we did some Dark Iron stuff. I just remembered as well.
Yes.
We just finally got around to doing a few more levels of that, and I was meaning to ask you how you're finding your new outlaw rogue, even though it's still we're at the low 30s now, I think it was.
Yeah. I was really enjoying it the first time we played it. It seemed to make more sense then. But since then, I seem to have completely forgotten what I'm doing, and I'm just button bashing, and it was a bit discordant, and I need to go back and figure out what the hell I'm supposed to be doing, because I seem to be out of energy all the time. Although our resident rogue expert informs me that this is because I haven't got half of the energy generating abilities I'm supposed to have.
Yes, we haven't hit the level 40 required for most of the abilities of each class, it seems.
Yes.
I tried tanking for the first time.
You did?
I
Seemed
know.
to go well?
It went as well as you'd expect for a lower level dungeon that doesn't have much to bother you with. But oh god, I could just imagine that getting extremely stressful. Because especially like in raid situations where you're constantly having to use your brain to be aware of where you are.
Yeah,
I thought healing was tough.
I think as long as you're, in my experience, as long as you're of the right mood when you go into it, it can be quite simple and cathartic, especially when you're working with another tank who's very well seasoned. Like I particularly like tanking opposite Corin Wolf because his explanations of the tactics are very simple, and he calls the plays quite clearly and in plenty of time. And I genuinely find I feel like I know what I'm doing, and I don't have as much to worry about, because DPS obviously have, especially in later level dungeons and raids, have tons of things to be responsible for. And yeah, I tend to find tanking is sort of, you've got one job to do, and as long as you do it right, everyone lives. If you don't do it right, everyone dies, but you do just have like one or two jobs to do.
As long as the thing's hitting you in the face,
yes,
you seem to be okay. And like that was the thing that I knew I had to learn how to do pretty quickly, because there were times where there'd be like, I don't know, a group of 4 or 5 things, and then suddenly one of them would just go for a walk, and I'd be like, oh shit, that's my job, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Quick yell at it to make it angry again. Oh good, you're hitting me again. So it was weird trying to not have the DPS frame of mind when I was tanking, because I was like, oh, my damage output's awful. I was like, oh wait, no, that's not my job. So I've got to get used to that. Speaking of raiding and Corrinwolf and such, we got the first 2 bosses down of the new content.
we did. We're doing new content at actual time.
I know. I was actually quite impressed with that second boss mechanic fight thing. The orc, there was an orc monk, and I think it was a blood elf fire mage, and they created puzzles on the floor, and all weird shit was going on.
Yes,
but I quite liked it because it was very different. Although, having said that, the first boss with the person who was yelling at you for being a paladin, saying the light will judge you, that was also a different fight. So it seems that every fight so far has been that White Blizzard are trying something new.
That was an unusual one, actually, when we did that last week, because we previously had put that boss down in about 3 pulls, and this time it took sort of close to 15. We just seemed to have something go wrong all the time,
and it was always at the same point as well. It always got to the last, I call it the last 30 seconds of the fight, where just when people are like, just when the healers are running out of mana, and just when you're starting to lose some DPS, and then you just can't quite get over the line. But then we did it again after that. I don't know however many pulls you think it was, and then it worked. So something was very odd there, but we'll see how that goes again tonight, assuming that we are raiding. It'd be nice. I think you're on tanking duty, so you get to have the night off.
Oh, am I on tanking duty? I didn't realise.
I have a feeling.
Okay, that's going to be interesting, because my RSI is flaring up at the moment. So.
Oh shit. Okay,
see.
well, we better get on and say someone else can tank. I'll tank. Disc Priest will tank.
Yeah, Disc Priest tanks it. Yeah, that'll do.
That'll do. Yeah. Okay. Cool. What about you though? What have you done?
Well, yes, we did get quite efficient in WoW. I got a little too efficient in getting an improvement of my 350 ret weapon, because I got the same one twice. I got the same 385 twice on 2 different days. So
that's ridiculous.
That was unfortunate, but there we go. I am now at the point where I've got like largely 3 completely different outfits for all my specs, and trying to manage them. So the only things that I don't have different for are Razerbug gear ones, which is really annoying. But there we go. We did some D&D.
An outfitter can be a bit annoying at times.
It can, yes. It decided to get my tanking spec gear confused with all my other gear, so the only thing it would change would be my weapons. I had to go and rebuild each of my sets again from scratch, which wasn't fun.
Oh no.
But yes, that was that. D&D is going well. We're all level 4 now, and I'm using my Slippers of Spider Climb to great effect. We basically went down into a sewer system last session, and we were pretty much getting railroaded the way we were supposed to go by large tracts of sewage on the floor that we didn't want to go wading through, until I realised I could just walk up the wall and on the ceiling above it, and went marching off down this really long corridor full of difficult terrain sewer that I thought, I bet I'm going off book here, and there's the sewage is supposed to stop people getting through. Instead, I found 2 secret doors, one of which we opened and walked in on 7 troglodytes. Randomly.
As you do.
Yeah, we haven't decided what they were doing, possibly playing cards, but who knows. So I stayed on the ceiling, and we checked the description in the book of the room, and it said it was a vast room. So we realised that if I was on the ceiling, I was out of melee range.
Oh,
So the healer is just standing above the fight, healing the people below and ignoring the troglodyte swinging at it. So
that's useful for you.
that was good fun. So yes, Spider Priest continues to be a thing. And what else? I'm sure there was something. Oh yes, that's it. The thing we were talking about at the party that we all want to see is Umbrella Academy. For those of you who don't know, it's based on a Dark Horse comic, so it's a sort of superhero-esque thing, and it's really very interesting. I watched it purely because I recognised the name from the party we've been at, and as someone who doesn't usually binge watch things, I then went 3 episodes in one sitting. So so yeah, we're up to episode 5 at the moment of 10, and yeah, it's really interesting. It's kind of dark in places and funny in other places. It's got a couple of quite famous actors in it. One of which, of course, is Ellen Page, but you kind of wouldn't recognise them. Like, they've all been made to look quite different.
Okay.
Yeah, Ellen Page looks like she's 10 years older than she actually is, for example, which is really strange if the last thing you saw her in was, a show where she's playing a teenager. So
she still could play a teenager.
She still could, but in this she's playing someone in their late 30s, early 40s.
Well,
yeah, it's quite impressive. I don't know if it's been done with makeup or with a lack of makeup or what, but yeah, they have managed to make her look quite different. So yes, I've been very much enjoying that and recommend it.
I'll have to give that a go before the next show.
Indeed.
And see what we make. See how it goes. I did hear that Netflix has. You mentioned it was from a comic series, right? Well, it's kind of interesting that that Netflix have. I'm assuming it's a Netflix original.
Yes, I think so.
Because I heard through a couple of friends that Netflix and Disney have been having problems trying to keep shows on one platform. Again.
Yes, but this is based on a Dark Horse comic, and as that was bought out by DC, I would imagine that it was either Vertigo or Dark Horse, but both of them were bought out by DC, if I recall correctly. So this is almost certainly a DC Warner Brothers thing.
So Netflix are fine.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good to know, because I'm kind of sad really that there's a lot of stuff being sort of not being removed yet from Netflix, but it looks like it's on course to.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Another thing, we got to pay for superhero tax, right?
Super tax. No, that's a different thing altogether.
No, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I have some interesting topics.
You do. One of them is a thing that is often called the wrong name, just like the super tax.
I know. I purposely put the other word in, if you noticed.
Yes.
The AI word,
yes,
which is not that. It's called machine learning. You should all know that by now.
Well, some of it's machine learning. There is another approach which is also lumbered under AI, but we can get to that.
Okay. So there was an article in Forbes that I stumbled across via Reddit, because Reddit gives me all of the links that I could ever want. So it says, today's AI... This is a quote of the title of the article, not me. Today's AIs are dangerously lacking in AU, artificial understanding. And the author of the piece, Doug Lenat, I can't see if that's an E or not. I think that's Lenat. Says, we would not be comfortable giving emotionally impaired people real-time decision-making authority over our family members' health, our life savings, our cars, or our missile defense systems. Yet we are hurtling in that direction with today's emotionally impaired AIs. It seems it's difficult trying to put emotions into machines.
Yeah.
Is the first thing with that. And it seems like... We've had several discussions about sort of machine learning and how much of it is not taking over lives, but making processes easier. But it is kind of troubling that there might not have been so much of this is how it needs to understand the context of things.
Yeah, I think that the fascinating thing about this article is just how much machine learning actually hasn't got any smarter. Like, there's a wonderful quote in here which says machine learning hasn't changed much. Has changed much less than, say, the Honda Accord since 1982. Since 1982. So cars have changed dramatically since 1982. The fact that a lot of people are saying actually machine learning hasn't, it's really interesting to think of it like that. I question slightly the author's desire to make this about emotion, because I honestly don't think emotion would ever do technology any good. I mean, we're emotional creatures, and we quite often let the emotion make us make the wrong choices. And I think the reason we feel like we need computers with compassion is because things without emotions scare us, because we find them harder to relate to. So I think there's an element of human bias in this article, but in the actual sort of science and the information from the experts, it's really quite fascinating. It's interesting that the only thing that's changed about machine learning isn't the algorithms or the approach or how clever they've got. It's mostly just that computers are much, much cheaper and hundreds and thousands of times faster. And with cloud computing and all that sort of thing, we have access to massive stores of data and systems that can iterate over things a million times and develop patterns out of that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe emotions wouldn't be the thing to think about in this as so much as context, because we had that article from Amazon about the Amazon's algorithm where it was determining like staff choices based on skin color and whether you should employ someone based on someone's skin color, and it was obviously that the machine learning has learnt something there, hasn't it? But it's not kind of socially or contextually acceptable.
No, I mean, and this is the thing. We see anything that suddenly develops a pattern of picking one skin color over another as coming from a place of bigotry and negative emotional contexts. But of course, what we realize is that machine hasn't learnt bigotry. What it's learnt is the bias that we ourselves have placed over several decades worth of or several centuries probably worth of employment. So we have a danger of not only putting our emotional failings onto machines, but also then judging them because they've learnt from our emotional states. It's like there's two big chatbots that had been tried recently, one of which was from Microsoft, and all they learnt from absorbing Twitter data was profanity, racism, sexism, and smuttiness. So
what was the name of that? It was like, Sally or something.
Something, yeah. It's one of these things is that because the algorithms don't have any intent or motivation or malice other than just to recognize patterns in what you've told it. I mean, just remember, you give a computer 1,000 images of a car, it's not going to know. If you give a computer 1 million images of a car, it's not going to know that what it's seeing is a car until you start identifying it as a car. So it's already got human biases there built into what you're feeding it. So it's fine for things like automated driving, because we all have a rule book about how vehicles should operate on the ground. We have an understanding of physics and the forces of acceleration and deceleration, and we can recognize threats and we can react quicker with machines than humans. So that's a pretty good application. It's very difficult for the systems that are designed to drive a car safely within the rules of the road to pick up human biases. But anything that is making decisions about human life, we are very much not in that place to be applying it using machine learning. The interesting one that this article also touches on is SR&R, which is symbolic representation and reasoning, and this is trying to make systems that don't just recognize patterns, but also to make logical connections and sort of deduce things about what they're seeing. So this is probably a more nuanced way of building artificial systems that can process data and understand and make decisions in future. But again, I don't know how far along that technology's come. It may be that it's no better than the machine learning. It's just that the speed of computers and the cheapness of computing is making it seem like it's a big new thing.
Yeah, because I mean, it had exponential growth of like the amount of devices and again the cost just exploded, and that just means that there's more data than ever, and it gets to the point where it's impossible for one human or a group of humans to go through all the data that's being sort of updated to us, even just one website. Like a news organization or whatever, to go through all that and check for biases and all this, right? Whereas if you've developed an algorithm that's been efficient and reliable, you would have a bias on that, wouldn't you? Because it's proven itself, or what you interpret that as being correct.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that you brought up things like driving earlier, because I was thinking to myself when I was reading this, people who are developing autonomous vehicles and such, is it possible that machine learning could create bad habits?
Yeah, absolutely. In both humans and in the machines that have done the learning. If you accidentally give it one wrong data set or an incomplete data set, for example, the company I work for, we use machine learning to determine what environment is being seen in any particular piece of video footage. We gave it the instructions that low furniture, room dominated by a bed, things like that equaled bedroom. And at first that seemed to be working fine for us. It was identifying bedrooms 100% of the time. And then it started identifying hospital rooms as bedrooms.
As bedrooms, right.
Which dramatically changes the mood of the scene that you're witnessing and therefore what you want to do with the video footage. So it was, we taught it a bad habit of assuming anytime it saw a bed, it was looking at a bedroom. So you can get bad habits into the machines, but then also you can breed bad habits into the people. I mean, how long is it going to take? How many generations is it going to take before people see taking a driving test and getting a driver's license as a waste of time and a nuisance instead of something that every 18-year-old tries to do as soon as possible to give them the freedom to move around and leave the nest and spread their wings, as it were. It's the same way none of us bother to remember phone numbers in our heads anymore.
Yeah, because you can just put them into a device.
Yeah. So yeah,
I don't even remember the last time I even dialed a phone number without having to copy and paste it from a website or whatever.
The only phone number I can remember is my own two phones, which is possibly not the most useful to remember, but there you go.
In a case of emergency, I know one number, my own. Oh dear. But it's interesting about being able to sort of unknowingly or knowingly add bad habits into machine learning, because it's without the going back to the article, it says about the artificial understanding. Would there be a way for the machine learning to go, hang on a minute, I've now understood the wider view of things because you've given me so much data. This is an anomaly. Or would it just go, oh, you've given me no split of data. Nice, thank you. I'll just put that in the banks and just adjust my values accordingly. Or is there like a failsafe? Is there such a thing at the moment?
I don't think there really is. I mean, it's funny because a lot of stories we've talked about recently have made me come back to, and I think I've mentioned it before, we actually do need Asimov's 3 laws if we're starting to make machines make decisions. It's funny how a very clever man, but just a fiction writer from all those years ago, came up with actually what is a perfectly logical and probably the actual proper way to implement sort of a failsafe if we're starting to give machines decision-making process.
I mean, it's one thing to allow like a Netflix recommendation, but it's another if like, it's interpreting radar data and it identifies a missile.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, how many times have you seen Amazon recommendation? That's not yeah, I do mean Amazon. Sorry, Amazon recommendations that are just nothing like what you would be interested in purchasing, purely because it thinks you've searched for something similar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to
many a time.
I used to remember searching for Green Lantern, meaning for the comic book. I would constantly get offered like electrical lighting. I'm not
like, not quite. Do you know these words? Do you recognize these words?
Yeah.
You don't understand the context.
And how many times do you get offered a million different varieties of the thing you just bought? As if you're going to need another one right away.
It's like, are you putting doubt in the manufacturer's ability to make a good product? Oh no, you've just learned that I've bought this thing, therefore I must like all of these things.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I do agree that there needs to be more of a the Asimovs in this case AU or M or machine learning understanding. Yeah. Tough. It's just a tough one, but there is something that you should tell people if you make a thing that's got something in it and you don't disclose that. You're naughty a bit, aren't you? Because Google admits that there was a hidden microphone in one of its devices without putting it in the specification. Whoopsie.
I think we've seen this before, haven't we?
Have we?
I'm sure there was it Amazon's device or Facebook? I remember what it was. It was not that they didn't disclose there was a microphone. They didn't disclose it was permanently on and recording.
Yeah.
They also didn't disclose once when they drove Google trucks around to photograph everything for Google Maps that they were also stealing everybody's Wi-Fi data.
Oh, gosh.
So there's form. It speaks to character, Your Honour.
on a contextual level, yes.
Yes.
I'd actually never heard of the Nest Guard, though.
No, neither did I, actually. Although, having said that, I really don't... I'm not really buying into this whole Internet of Things thing yet.
Oh, yes. Well, the Nest Guard was Google's way of tapping into the home security market. But the description says acts as a way to arm and disarm the firm's home security alarm system by using a code or tap of a key fob, because those are so secure. But anyway, Google has acknowledged that it made an error in not disclosing that one of its home alarm products contained a microphone. Done. Oh dear. Have you actually? If you look at the link in the article from the BBC, it has like the specification for the Nest Guard, and it sort of says, "Oh yes, you get detectors and you get mounting brackets and all the adhesive screws and you get the key fob tags and all these things." No mention of a microphone. Last 12 hours though, without the need to charge it. But there's no mention of a microphone. Yeah.
I mean, surely they must mention it as a feature of what it can do. Although, having said that, one of the features
it has built-in Google Assistant.
Yeah, I mean that tells you it has to have a microphone. Google Assistant needs you to speak to it.
Yeah.
I also love how one of the features is talks with a friendly voice.
Because nothing says home security like a how.
It says arms and disarms with a Nest tag, postcode, or Nest app, or with the built-in Google Assistant. And then the very next thing, as if it's just as important, talks with a friendly voice.
I'm actually surprised that's not higher up on the list. Like as scary as all of these possible things that you could have a burglar or whatever, it does talk in a friendly voice. It has tamper detection and talks in a friendly voice.
If you go down to audio and lights, it says LED ring.
Oh yeah, yeah.
LED ring, speaker, microphone. Has that always been there?
No, that's just been added in.
Yeah, I think so.
Like literally, probably in the last 7 hours.
It's also on the bottom of that list, which makes me think they literally just tacked it on.
Oh shit! Yeah, we need to add it now. Oh, but that's the LED ring. Yes, that's such a feature that needs to be high up in that product description. Like they've got this a bit wrong. I mean, not the fact that they didn't disclose everything, but like just some of the things that they've put in this specification list are quite funny. Like, why do I need to know that where was it that it has cellular backup sold separately and not available in all areas. Like, why do I need to know that? Because
Well, I guess it's a feature that you might like, the fact it can back up your phone. But then I'm guessing that's just backing it up to Google anyway. If this is basically just a
it's
Google.
cloud device, as far as I can tell. Oh, but it does have a 2-year limited warranty. Limited as in we didn't disclose straight away that there was a microphone.
I don't know, because part of me thinks that because this is such a sloppily worded and laid out spec sheet, it could just literally have been missed off. Someone's just typed these things in whichever order they thought they needed to go in and not really given it much thought, and so they've just accidentally left the bit about the microphone off. It doesn't feel like it was hiding the fact it had a Google Assistant, and, well, how else do you expect Google Assistant to work?
Yeah, I mean, unless people were assuming that did it through your phone, but and it was a speaker. But still, I don't know. Like I'd never heard of this product before. And it said on Twitter, concerned Nest owners were told the microphone has not been used up to this point. Really?
So how was it listening and working as a Google Assistant then?
Yep. And it said Nest Guard is an all-in-one alarm, keypad, and motion sensor. But despite being announced well over a year ago, the word microphone was only added to the product specification this month. Like, oh dear, the on-device microphone was never intended to be a secret and should have been listed in the tech specs. That was an error on our part.
I wonder if they hadn't finished getting the deal straight with Google, and they put the ability to be a Google device in there, but didn't make it live until they finished dotting the I's and crossing the T's with how the contract would work with Google themselves. And so they just left all mention of it off until that was done. And then suddenly it was like, oh, congratulations, you've already got a Google device. Which is kind of even worse, because you're sort of... That's a lie of omission, and people might not have bought it if they'd known it was also a Google device.
Yeah, there was... Nick here, who writes for Pixel Envy blog, said if I owned one of these things and found out that the world's biggest advertising company hid a microphone in my home for a year, I'd be livid. But yet, you're more than fine to allow, for those that have iPhones, a thing that's always listening to you because it has to be able to hear the words "Hey Siri" or whatever it is, But because it's been disclosed that it does that, you're fine with that? I don't see how... I see that it's a big deal that they've left this out of the spec sheet, but like you said, that seems to be a sloppy part on the company's part, right?
Yeah, if it is leaving it out because they hadn't got the Google part of things signed off yet, that's bad, because people might not have known that they were buying into a listening device. If it is just they put about the Google Assistant in the whole time, it's just they forgot to put the microphone, then, well, kind of, what did you think it was going to have,
Well, Nest is one of the subsidiaries of Google. So it seems unlikely that if it was already specified to be a Google Assistant, that kind of, like you said, like if it's meant to be a standalone device, it must have had something, right? And if it's meant to be a security system, it's meant to be able to listen. That would be my other thought, right? Is that if it's meant to be a home security system, surely it needs to be able to hear.
I guess I would have thought that detectors using radar or lasers or infrared would be more useful at detecting intrusion than sound, because quite a lot of things can sound like they're something and actually be. What happens if you hear the sounds of a house being broken into on television and it sets your alarm off?
God, that would... So it'd basically be like the whole people who were on TV or whatever, and they would say in an advert, it's like, "Hey Alexa," and then of course everyone's Alexa would turn on or whatever. Or the other one was it Samsung smart TVs that were always on as well? There was another scandal about that. But I get to the point where I'm a bit like, we've just accepted that these are things that happen now. Like you said about how things have been exponentially growing so fast in terms of like computing and such. But we're more than happy to have like these devices because they're convenient.
Yeah. I'd say I'm still not convinced there's enough benefit from these assistance devices to warrant them in the shape they are in now. I can imagine. I mean, I use Google Assistant on my watch on my phone, but I have a very clear way of activating that manually rather than having something that needs to permanently be listening to my whole house.
I mean, I got my parents Google Mini for the kitchen because they're old school stereo speakers that they were just using it to listen to the radio. So I was like, I might as well get them something that they're probably going to use in the kitchen, as in like a timer, a rate that can play radio. It can, you could ask it things, and they've been using it for those purposes. But I had to make sure that, like, I deep dove into the Google, what do they call them? The things that pop up on your phone that you have to allow things. I can't remember what they're called.
Notifications?
Or the permissions. That's the one.
Permissions. I'm with you. Yeah.
So I had to make sure that had, was up to par because some people that have these products aren't tech savvy. And it was just more of a precaution from my part, really.
That makes sense.
It should be easier though to be able to simplify these things though for the quote unquote layman.
The problem is it's not in the company's interest to make things simple to make your privacy easy to assure, because they obviously want to have your data and want to have these things that they can sell and market. So
yeah, I'd like to know what people thought about whether this was a big deal as some people have made out to be, or whether you were like us and just like, you should have known that just by what it can do. Or what it's advertising it can do. But if it was the only other thing I can think of is that it was a thing that was meant to be added later on, but they needed the hardware there now.
That's kind of what I was saying. But that's a problem, isn't it? Because people didn't buy it for
that reason,
future feature.
Yeah, the future proofing of it. Yes.
So we found out that we don't like AI or machine learning or whatever, and we don't like home assistants. So we're being a bit tech curmudgeon-y today.
No, there's always context in these things.
Yes, but it'd be good to know what
we like machine learning if there's appropriate fail-safes.
Yes. I think it'd be good to know what listeners think about both of these topics, because they are quite closely related. I wonder if we start seeing patterns of people who are happy with these home assistants are also happy with machine learning and that sort of thing.
Yeah, but robots are coming for dogs' jobs now.
Oh no, not the dogs.
No, because we got an inbox from CodeCat saying, what would you do if one of these rung your doorbell? And this is from Interesting Engineering, saying that these robotic dogs can fetch packages for you. And just like, it's a dog. But...
yeah, it's the snake-like arm that grows out of where its head should be, I think, that was freaking CodeCat out.
So it's like they look like dogs. They've even got like little tiny wiggly ear nubbins that look like dials but also ears.
Yeah. I did reply to this though. I was pointed out that if this rang my doorbell, I would just answer my door because I wouldn't be able to see that it was one of these things until after I'd opened the door.
Yeah, and then you just be like, "Oh, thank you, doggo."
Oh God, there's a robot thing with a tentacle for a face at my door.
But at least it would probably be less likely to drop and break my package, right?
Well, that's true. I think I still prefer the six-wheeled robot delivery man that we saw the other day.
Oh, I see. It's got like a scorpion tail thing, hasn't it? Like the little arm thing. That's really useful, but also it would be a lot more efficient than Yodel, which is not just something that people in the Alps do, but it's a delivery company in the UK that tend to have a reputation for throwing packages. From the multiple viral videos of them trying to throw them into someone's bathroom, and I think there was one where they threw it to try and get it over the fence, but it landed on someone's roof.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and then they left the note saying, the sorry you weren't in thing, but it just says location on roof. But I think these are quite sweet in a way. But then I'm like that with anything that's like a dog. But I do agree that the snake arm thing's a bit weird.
Yeah, I didn't find these that scary, to be honest, but there we go.
No, but it's still like, as long as they have appropriate fail safes, then I'm not too fussed about it.
There we go. I think we've got a show title for the short show today: appropriate failsafe.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Speaking of, that will have to do us for this week. Back with a regularly scheduled broadcast next week, with any luck. Until then, we will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Geek Card with your hosts, Razerbug and Robbie Glow. You can find The Geek Card wherever fine podcasts are found, and on the web at thegeekcard.podbean.com. The Geek Card is a proud member of the Voice of Geeks network, where you can find other amazing podcasts like Orange Lounge Radio, Starboard Power Coupling, and Girls Gone WoW. Find out more at www.vognetwork.com.